Welcome, everybody, to the Tradition Mortgage Podcast. I'm Mike Greenlay, along with Erik Hendrikson, my co-host. And this week, we have Enebak Construction on tap. And we have a couple of guests, actually. Curt Loken, General Manager, and Jacob Fick, a Project Manager with Enebak Construction. So you think about home building, you think about mortgages, you think all about it, but that all has to start somewhere. And it usually starts in the dirt. And so, Curt, let me ask you real quick, how long have you been in this business? And more specifically, I think with Enebak Construction, because it's been a little while.
I've been with Enebak for 38 years. I've been in the business for 43.
So, yeah, obviously you've seen it change immensely over that time. Is it becoming more streamlined? I know there's obviously more pitfalls. There's more things you have to do, but has it become more streamlined, or is there more of a quagmire to have to go through to get things done?
The dirt part of it's probably not changed a whole lot that way. It's the prep to get us to the dirt. Mm-hmm. It's a little slower process with the city and government stuff.
You mentioned equipment. Obviously, that's added to the process, or it helped the process. I mean, I've seen and been around a few of these pieces of equipment that you guys deal with. They're immense, and so I mean, obviously that's come a long way.
That's come a real long ways. When I started here, I was running a cable-operated scraper, no hydraulics, and now we're running around with D9s and off-road trucks hauling 28 to 30 yards in them at 40 miles an hour.
Yeah,
this is different.
Yeah, it is amazing. People might have seen some pictures that we posted out on our various social media posts a few weeks ago about equipment that was purchased from Ziegler, which is the cat dealer here in the Twin Cities. And I had the opportunity to go out there and firsthand walk around and look at the equipment, and this stuff is gigantic. It is absolutely massive, and it's extremely expensive. So it definitely. Excavating is definitely a game that you got to make an investment into play, and you kind of take that for granted. I'm on the other end of the cycle where I'm writing mortgages for houses and people that have bought our homes, and these guys at Enebak, the original Tradition company back over 100 years old. These guys are at the very, very beginning of the cycle where they're actually moving the dirt and getting the housing pads ready in the streets and the sewers, the stuff that nobody thinks about at all, and getting ready to bring that to the market. And it's, again, people kind of drive by and you see the equipment out there, but you really never know exactly what is going on. But it is incredibly important to the process. Nothing can really happen without that dirt getting moved. And one of the discussions that you talk about is shortage of lots and what's available. And people see, okay, there's some fields out there. Why aren't they moving dirt and building houses on them? Let's get going with things. And maybe Jacob, you could talk a little bit about kind of before the first shovel goes in the ground, or before the scraper starts scraping, what has to happen to really get these developments rolling.
There's a lot that goes in. I mean, Erik, that's a great point. There's a lot that does get done before, behind the scenes, I guess. Everyone from a development company like Tradition Development buying the land, getting it locked up. They take it in, they hire an engineer, the engineer designs a plan, they bring it into Enebak Construction and our estimators and guys in the office here, Joe Redka and Dan Hansen and Andrew Comstock. These guys take this stuff and dissect everything the engineer kind of puts together, and the engineer says, hey guys, what do you think? Really at that point to say, is the dirt balanced? Do we have a bunch of extra dirt? Do we not have enough dirt? Does the sewer lines work? I mean, they can, and I'm an engineer myself, and we can draw that stuff on paper, but Joe and Andrew and Dan and Curt, and once you actually do it in the field, it's a whole different story than what you actually get, necessarily what the paper says.
I know this might sound like a silly question to people who don't actually work in the dirt, but how much of the type of dirt that is out there, which people don't really give it a lot of consideration, but how much does the type of dirt affect the type of projects that you guys are doing?
A lot. There's a lot, how do I say this? There's a lot less nice projects left back in the day we had sand everywhere. Now we're building stuff on swamps and big corrections, and the sites are huge this year. We haven't seen sites like this for a long time. But yeah, the clay sites, little rain, you're down for 2-3 days.
Yeah, and I was sorry to interrupt there, guys, but that's the thing. Again, those of us that are in the office, the desk jockeys, and we're working on the financials and we're doing loans for people, and people are talking about costs. You don't realize that these housing projects, the cost of the lot itself isn't just the size of the lot or the square footage or the view of it. It's what was the work that needed to go into allowing a house to be built. And you talk about soils, and some are more suited for structures to be built on them, others are not. So Enebak has to basically, in a lot of cases, go in and take out the earth that's there and truck in new earth that is more suitable for building on. Or there's certain areas where elevations are low and they have to build them up, or take them down. That's the stuff that people really don't realize is going on, but it has an immense impact on what that final cost is when that house comes to market.
The other thing I wanted to ask, and again, people don't understand what's going on behind the scenes. Like Erik just alluded to, everyone sees maybe the early parts of a road going in, and they see the sewer lines kind of being worked on or whatnot, and they say, oh, look, a new neighborhood. But when you get to that point, you guys have already done, an immense amount of work. What are some of the, I guess you can give us some of the top things that you guys do. What are some of the key things you guys do to get it to where someone is actually laying out the streets of what would be a neighborhood?
So once we get, to that point, once we get through the office, the folks, right? Our office guys dissect the whole thing, whether it's clay or it's sand, how much dirt we're going to be left over. You try to ideally make the site so it balances. That's a big part of it. Whether the clay and it swells. People are like, what do you mean your clay swells? You get situations where a site may come in there, and if you put 1 square yard of dirt in a box and then you dig it all up, that square yard doesn't go back in that same box. So there's that component of it. You get into it, and then ultimately get to the point where you start going through permits and pre-construction meetings, and developers have to get letter credits done and development agreements done. All this paperwork has to be done to make sure all the boxes are checked. And then you have to get someone out there to inspect erosion control, and you have to get someone out there to put erosion control in, and someone comes in after that and takes all the trees down or circles the trees and fence so they don't get taken down. Mm-hmm. And from that standpoint, the big yellow Tonka trucks come in, and they move the dirt around, and they shuffle everything around, and it looks like a bomb went off for about a month or two, and then about a week later, you're like, bam, it looks like finished lots, like you may see when you drive by. Right. And you see houses being ready to build at that point. And at that stage, after they're all said and done with the grading, then the utility companies come in. I say utility company being our crews come in, they start putting the sewer and the water lines under the ground. The stuff that, typically as a homeowner, you flush your toilet and you take a shower, and that stuff all goes somewhere. Yeah. That's where it goes. It goes out to the street, to the main lines. It goes out. That's why your sprinkler system works. That's why the storms, when it rains, the water doesn't pond in your backyard. And it all goes to these big ponds that you see in these neighborhoods all over the place. And then after that, in come the street guys. Yeah. And we put the blacktop on, the curb and gutter and the blacktop. And at that point, we kind of turn it over. We turn it over to the developer again, and the developer will take it and put the power lines in. They'll hire the guy to put a power line and the telephone lines in, and then they'll put trees in, and they'll make it all pretty. Yeah. Put it that way. We blow it up, we put it back, and then the developer makes it look pretty again to sell houses, and they start building houses and move on from there.
Jacob, maybe you can talk a little bit about your work with Tradition Development, and one of the biggest advantages that we have as a group of companies here at Tradition Companies is a collaboration that goes into the planning and the kind of the vertical integration, if you will, and how ultimately that can bring the most competitive product to the customer at the end of the day. And I know that as a land developer, people are looking at projects and they're laying out how they feel these neighborhoods should best look, but that's not through the eyes of an excavator. And I know that I think the joke that Tip Enebak had always talked about, it's in the dirt business, it's pretty easy to bury your profits, right? That was the saying. And I know that in the development world, once you get into these projects, costs can skyrocket when you start really actually moving dirt. And maybe you could talk for just a moment about kind of that collaboration with tradition development and ultimately how that helps ensure keeping costs under check.
Yeah, I mean, that is the beauty of, and I'd say a big part of what tradition companies offers is the value. And I say value because I don't know that anyone, as much as we are very cost conscious, we're never the first guy to say we're going to be your low cost provider. But the value we can bring to our clients is something we take a lot of pride in. And from that standpoint, value being looking at a plan as little as drawing on the back of a napkin and trying to give them preliminary costs to help a company like Tradition Development Company or any other developer we work with here in the metro, to provide them some early on costs, because they all put budgets together to figure out if this job even has the merits to move forward. So that's part of the value. The other piece of it is that knowledge that you can pull in from other companies that we work with. I mean, that are under the Tradition umbrella, and that's trying to help out other developers with our grading and utility costs. That's trying to help them walk through the process. I worked for Tradition Development for 10 years before I came to the Enebak side for the last 3. And trying to help provide them some of that expertise, as we've done a lot of work with these different cities. There's other developers that are new to town or just getting started that we do work with. That's a big advantage that we bring to those clients, trying to help them with that experience of, hey, how do you maneuver the city process? How do you maneuver the governmental agency? Those relationships are a giant thing. I mean, Tip built this company on relationship, right? These companies have developed and gotten big over relationship basis, and we built those relationships with cities. And I think Tip said it best, right? It's very difficult to gain a good reputation in our business, but it goes away very quickly. And we tell our guys that same thing every day. We have a reputation to uphold, and that's part of the thing that we can bring in. We can walk into a city and have a suggestion on how to solve a problem, and you're given instant credibility because of the things that Curt and the guys that have been here for 37, 38, 39, 40 years, Tip, has done with these cities in the past. And then to bring in the banking side, if there's a way that we can pull the banking side, or versus vice versa as well, where the bank will, okay, hey, I've got a client that wants to do a job. Are you guys interested in bidding this piece? The mortgage piece, right? Pulling in these developments and trying to get, pull the mortgage guys, the new construction mortgage side of things into the developments. And I mean, it goes on and on. I mean, that's the piece of it where the vertical integration, as Tip would say, is a big help. And it helps from our standpoint because we don't always have to be after the top dollar at that as well. And we can kind of spread out that piece of the pie and provide that little bit everywhere, a little bit all the way along the line, and then provide that value.
I wanted to talk to Curt a little bit about what he's seen as far as costs out there to actually move the dirt. I know we've seen tremendous increases in costs on the home building side due to commodities and other appliances, you name it. Just curious in the dirt moving world if you're seeing some cost increases as well.
Yeah, obviously labor goes up every year. Fuel's starting to increase again now. Equipment has gone up quite a bit, but a lot of the developments we do also costs quite a bit more because of the soils. I mean, we're putting houses in areas that were swamps, so you have to clean that all out. We've just went through a job not too long ago here to help out a developer, and they're putting the houses in places you wouldn't think about putting them anymore, but they're selling. So, but the costs that's the major cost, I would say.
You and I talked actually this winter, and I was trying to get an idea. We were talking about frozen ground, right? I mean, this is Minnesota. I mean, if you're working down in Florida, maybe it's different, but in Minnesota, this is somewhat seasonal. Can you kind of go through what the process of your year looks like? Because there are times where you might be shut down in some areas, but then you're doing other things. Can you kind of give us an idea of what your year looks like?
Yeah, we typically start the season off in the gravel pits where there's no compaction issues and no testing, and then work our way into the development side probably in March, and just ramp up the hours as much as we can to get to the fall, try to get everything paved and set up for the winter for the developers to start building homes.
I had one question. It's kind of the reminds me of like Star Wars, the technology a little bit, but maybe just to kind of wrap up, you could talk a little bit. My understanding is you're taking advantage of drone technology and GPS, coordinate technology regarding the pieces of equipment, which is all pretty heavy stuff, and people don't necessarily think about that kind of technology when it comes to digging in the dirt. But maybe you could touch on a little bit how you use this newest technology out there.
The drone has been amazing. We kind of practiced out on ag industry stuff just to learn how to use it, and it ended up being a really big tool for ag industry now. So now they're kind of dependent on us to take care of what they're mining, what they have for mining as quick as we get it stripped. They know their quantity of gravel for the year. I mean, they'd have us fly weekly if we would. But yeah, the drone thing it's amazing. GPS, we got a GPS hoe now in the sewer division. So the technology is getting better every year.
That helps limit any mistakes and any corrections. With that, it's just time is money, and if you make those mistakes when you're moving big quantities of earth, I would imagine that would be a pretty tough situation to try to remedy, or at least in any kind of amount of a quick period of time.
Yeah, you can check yourself pretty much in one day.
It helps add to that value too. I mean, it's a service that we can get to these guys and offer them up. So, and trying to get new employees. That's always a challenge too. Is you have a younger generation that doesn't have the same, I'm going to say, emphasis on this industry, that skilled labor industry, where it hasn't been pushed as much. It's really coming through. These guys make a great living, but that technology helps pull a lot of the younger generation back into it now, because it's almost a little bit like a computer game. At some point, you get in somebody's equipment and you have to be able to run an iPad or some sort of tablet to be able to even start the equipment. So
That's amazing.
And just to finish off, you guys just recently in this past year here acquired a lot of new equipment. And I know like I said, we've taken a few pictures of it. It's really impressive and it's huge. But just what are some of the new pieces that you guys were able to acquire?
We purchased 3 D6 electric dozers for the first time. So they're run like a locomotive style. Diesel engine runs a generator, and some of the coolest technology I think is all this stuff is able to record, like new backhoes will tell you how many yards you put in your bucket for the day, and you can get that relayed right back to the computers in the office. And you can tell if somebody's wearing their seatbelt or not wearing their seatbelt. It's definitely come a long ways.
What are some of the other pieces that you've acquired this past year?
Backhoes, dozers, skid steers, trucks, off-road trucks, dump trucks.
So that's pretty impressive. Pretty impressive that you guys are able to, I guess, maybe replace some things and add to it as well. And that's actually sounds like a good sign that you guys are going in the right direction. I'm assuming you guys are pretty busy right now.
Very busy, and it shows that the new equipment made a difference. We haven't had much downtime. The older stuff starts to break, and it's just kind of the way it is. But it's been a great year so far.
All right, gentlemen. Erik, thanks again for coming on in. Curt, keep up the great work. I know you've been here, like I said, for 38 years. So, he's just a spring chicken in the industry. And Jacob, again, thank you for your time.